This episode was brought to you by Tampa General Hospital, the #1 hospital in Tampa Bay and one of America's best hospitals in 5 specialties. To learn more, visit tgh.org. Welcome to Invest Insights. I'm Abby Maloney. I'm joined today by Rita Lowman, the president and COO of Pilot Bank. Rita, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Pilot Bank helped over 800 clients in administering PPP loans last year. On top of that, the bank had another robust year in terms of lending activity. What are your expectations in regards to loan volume and demand throughout 2021?
We're really fortunate to see a great loan demand, not only for our bank, but for the entire community. PPP, the second phase, the second draw, has now begun, and we're seeing quite a bit of activity on that. However, normal lending is still very robust. Now, when we say that, we're not seeing a lot of lending, of course, in high rises and things along those lines. And of course, in the hotel industry, it's a little bit slower. But normal C&I, commercial, small business lending, absolutely a positive for us. And we see another good, robust growth year.
While the volume of PPP loans administered may be greater with the larger banks, community banks were highly sought after in this process because of the personal touch that they could offer. How do you believe the experience of this year will transform the way that people view and consider community banks?
Well, Abby, it's really interesting because this past year, there are a lot of the larger banks who are friends of mine. As you know, I'm past chair of the Florida Bankers Association. And they weren't able to really help some of their smaller clients. And they called us because they were focused on the larger clients. And what we have found is that building relationships is what really makes a community bank. Now, I want to share with you that banks of all sizes are needed and they're very important. However, a true relationship with your banker is what makes banking and community banking so important. In my career, I've noticed over the 44 years that I've been in banking, many of my clients have been with me for 25 years because, again, it's that trust and the fact that I'll go to them or they can pick up the phone and call the president of the bank. And that's really important to build those relationships and be able to assist them. The PPP process also saw a lot of small businesses who did not have relationships with the bank. And we were able to gain those relationships, and now we'll be able to help them throughout their career and their banking needs as we go forward.
You have been outspoken in wanting there to be a level playing field with credit unions in regard to those entities not having to pay taxes. With the Biden administration now at the helm, what transformations would you like to see on a regulatory front from the banking industry?
There's a number of things that we would like to see as we move forward. And of course, the credit union is one of those. We're not talking about all credit unions, but the larger ones, those that are over $1 billion. When a family of 4 pays more in taxes than a credit union, there's a problem with that. And so I have been outspoken on that. We also want to see some simplifications in the Bank Secrecy Act and anti-money laundering as we move forward. And we also want to see some new regulatory requirements as it relates to the Community Reinvestment Act, which the current laws are very outdated. And we feel like that would be very important for all banks of all sizes.
Over the past year, how has technology permanently transformed and changed the banking sector and lending process? And how will these changes ultimately benefit the businesses and individuals that you work with?
You know, it's really interesting during this global pandemic, which has been really interesting for banking because we're still what we consider first line defense. We're needed by our clients. However, during the pandemic, we were able to really help the technology and help people understand a little bit more about online banking and mobile banking. We kept all of our banking centers open through the drive-through. However, appointments were needed. And that was not just in our bank, that was pretty much throughout the United States. But what we did find out is that quite often we could talk to a client by phone and help them go through that initiative that they needed. And also they were able to do most everything through the drive-through. For instance, if they wanted to open a new account, then yes, we'd set an appointment up and they could do that, or we could do it online. And that really makes a difference right now, and it'll make a difference going forward. It has truly transformed the way that we're doing banking. Now, years ago, we started technology, as you well know. ATMs started back in the 70s, the early 70s. Nobody was going to use an ATM in 71, 72. And now that is the future. And now being able to just tap your credit card and be able to do your banking that way so much has changed and it'll continue to change. Now, we do have a few concerns in the banking industry as it relates to fintech. And that's because of the fact that, again, you don't receive that personal service that you do in a community bank. However, different motions and different modes of banking are for different people, and we understand that.
I mean, you're right with all these transformations, and traditionally speaking, banking has been a bit slow to encompass them. But look at this past year and how transformative it has been. But on the personal side, you as a leader in the community, you as a leader of Pilot Bank, how have you personally transformed?
That's a really good question because a lot has changed in my life in 2020. And in those changes, I've changed as an individual in some ways. Now, of course, the transformation to technology, to Zoom calls, those types of things have been very important. But one of the things I've realized too is that human touch is so important and meeting people face to face. And one of the things that many of our clients have asked us for is that are we willing to come back out and actually meet with them one-on-one? And we have now, as far as having large functions and things along those lines, we have it. But yes, we are more than happy. And I love that human touch. I love the element of being able to talk to someone face to face and really understanding what their needs are. Because often through a Zoom call, you see quite a bit, but it's not as personal and it's not really seeing their company as a whole and them seeing you as an individual also and as a bank and what you bring to the community. The other thing is the community involvement. We've been involved in our community and we're very, very visible along those lines. However, this past year, those too have been through Zoom. Many of the boards that I sit on, it's been through a Zoom meeting. And so to be able to get out and say hello and to do an elbow touch with someone, it means a lot.
Yeah, I think that we're all ready to get back to being social again and having in-person meetings, and we're almost
there. We
there.
are. I have one of my children, my oldest son, we were able to be with him this past weekend, and I just find it so rewarding to be able to be with your family. And I always say, make sure that you take as much time with your family as you possibly can.
Absolutely, so true. Well, thank you again. That was Rita Lowman, the president and COO of Pilot Bank. My name is Abby Maloney, and you've been watching Invest Insights. Rita, thank you so much.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you again to our sponsor for making this episode possible, Tampa General Hospital. For more information, visit tgh.org. And to listen to more of our episodes, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for listening.